Welcome back to Public Forum. Well, in New York, we know of the Nurses Association, the Transit Union, the Transport Workers Union, who have now come out in full support of the Occupy Wall Street movement and are planning to join the protesters' meet. We know that this doesn't seem to be that organized in the beginning, but right now with these traders' union and their support, certainly a lot of developments are there on the Occupy Wall Street protest case. Okay, and let us now try and understand the reasons that we were talking about as to why this protest has started at all on Wall Street. One of the grave reasons that we talked about was the social inequalities in the financial system. Can you please elaborate a bit on this? How old is this and what are the...
It goes back to the Reagan Revolution. And basically after World War II, America had what was called the embedded liberalism, which is a model based on state intervention and some degree of social welfare provision that will mitigate the dark sides of excessive capitalism. But after 1980, when Reagan came out and said, government is not the solution, it's the problem, basically there was an assault on the state's welfare provision altogether. And you had the rise of what is called the neoliberal state. And under this was like a relentless march for accumulation, especially by Wall Street, big banks and investment firms and private equity firms. So the idea was to remove as many barriers as possible for their accumulation to happen, and which of course is deregulation. But then what it did was to also unleash the demonic side of the whole thing, where accumulation came at the cost of society, and there were social interests that were tread upon in the process. But there was a myth that kept this whole thing going, which was credit. Because of the cheap supply of credit, you had consumption rising, but actually real incomes of the 99% who are out now have stagnated since 1980. The statistics showing that actually you need to, for America to come out of this depression, they have to first actually raise the median wages, which they haven't in 30 years. But people still could consume and buy and feel the retail therapy factor in their lives because of credit. Now that it is dried up after 2008, people have suddenly realized that they have no credit card to bank upon, and therefore collective strength through mobilization and through grassroots coalitions. We've seen that during the Elect Obama movement, and many of these same participants who are today in Zuccotti Park in New York and other places are the ones who brought Obama to power. But in a way, they're disillusioned with the fact that the system has seemed to have co-opted him. And I tend to see this whole, one of the messages which is unheard of in the public slogans is, Obama, come back to us. We need you on our side to enact major change. That's what Roosevelt did in the 1930s when he was pushed by the people. So in that sense, this is a kind of like a maneuver in spatial terms. You have the big banks who always seem to have Congress and the president in their pockets, but the people are now asking the politicians, where do you stand? So it's a very critical position where they're inviting them to show their true colors. And those who are on the side of the fat cat bankers, as Obama called them, will inevitably be punished.
Okay, so fixing the accountability, especially of the Wall Street, that is some major thing one would say.
It's very important to remember that Warren Buffett, who's a billionaire investor and a big wealth creator, he's been funding Obama now, and he's proposed a taxation himself, a lot like Narayana Murthy in India of Infosys proposing taxes. So these are rich men who have a certain moral stake and a social leaning who are advocating taxation. Now, that is being resisted by Wall Street. But it is the same Warren Buffett who called the derivatives trading on Wall Street as the weapons of mass destruction in the economic sphere. So this is very, very pertinent because, as I said earlier, this is not just about unemployment. This is also about Wall Street abdicating what I call the custodial responsibility of financial managers, which means that they are taking the rewards while the risks are on the savings of the poor. And in America, not being a state-funded system, for them, they don't have the provident funds of the kind Indians have. So what has been happening is that the savings for the pensions had been given to Wall Street. Now, Wall Street has lost the money in derivatives trading and all sorts of confusing issues. And so pensioners are also affected by this. And the most important part is, while middle class is expanding in a country like India, in the US, the middle class has shrunk. Why did it shrink? Because as Dr. Chandolia said you're talking about the credit card economy taking over your savings. So you spent the money, and then whatever you did not spend, you gave it to Wall Street, and Wall Street blew it up in some other derivatives. So, you know, as they say in Hindi,
what, according to you, could be the ratio there in terms of if you divide the taxable population in America? What is it like? It's some 50% of Americans, maybe?
It's much more. It's
much more than that.
America's middle class is much bigger. The only statistics I have today is that there are 46 million Americans who are below what is considered to be America's poverty line.
But this is a sign of grave inequality that exists in the financial system.
1 in 6 Americans is poor, regarded as poor. Like 1 in 3 in India is poor. So it's almost, I mean, you know, America, we couldn't think of it.
Poverty lines, but still it is very significant. This is the world's most happening economy.
Biggest economy.
But do you think that this was certainly the point when the middle class was to come out and show its resentment against whatever has been happening in all these years, since 80s or even before that?
Yeah, I think the middle class is now feeling very disillusioned with this market mantra, where everything was relegated to the market and the government shrunk in its, in its effectiveness, in its functioning. So basically, the market was ruling, and these fat cat managers, bank managers, they went on taking risk after risk, and at the expense of the middle class people's assets. So you have heard of the subprime crisis, how that actually, with it started this whole financial crisis, and how they just gave loans to not even properly checking the credibility of the loan taker. So that started it, and then they started all this derivative trading. They didn't know where they were going to end, and then when they were bailed out, the government actually took on over their debt around, I believe, $2.3 trillion, and after 2008. And what did they do with it? They just took bonuses, and they didn't do anything to really improve their.
Bonuses are back, but the jobs are not. So that's where the problem lies.
Now, the biggest problem right now is that some of the democratic lawmakers have also proposed their support to these protesters. We know of the kind of political support at this juncture, let's say, to the movement. What would it really mean, Dr. Chandolia, according to you?
There will be factions within the parties who will now come out and, they'll be angling for, the sympathy of the protesters and try to capitalize on it. In fact, if you look at the protest blogs themselves, the ones who are actually they're all worried about co-optation. And they're not only worried about co-optation by the parties, but even by the big unions, because it was spontaneous as we started the show. It was very spontaneous and leaderless, very much like, Jasmine Revolution in North Africa. And now the fear is that the organized interests will come in, and then they have axes to grind, and they will steer the direction of the protest in a certain way. And unlike, for example, Anna Hazare in India or Thaksin Shinawatra in Thailand, there's no charismatic figure per se who's Michael Moore is around, and he's buoying up the public, but he's not really a leader. So what this portends is that there could be an attempt at a takeover of this. And in fact, in many ways, Obama has already said in his remarks to try and steer it towards institutionalization. So he's been talking about consumer protection, right? I'm trying so hard for consumer protection. The people out there, I hear you, and the Republicans are blocking it, and therefore I need to go all out to to override these concerns. So in many ways, he's also talking about how he needs the people behind his back to try and enact these institutional changes.
Maybe it's because of that the response to his speech and his remarks has been less than enthusiastic.
No, he has to walk the tightrope, or he believes he has to, because institutionalization essentially means coming out with concrete laws, for which he needs the support of the Congress. As we watched recently when he was trying to bring out a jobs plan, there is a right wing within the Democrats, and there is a left wing within the Republicans.
That is right.
So if he has to deliver on the ground, he has to build a consensus. So he's worried probably more about the Congress than the people, because the people are just giving vent to their
But
feelings.
there is an important thing here, because if he's planning to bring out the jobs plan, let's say, or he's also proposing some financial regulation bill, and things would certainly improve. Important thing would be to get it cleared from the Senate, and of course that's where the problem is, because he would have to face the opposition, at the same time generate the majority and get it passed. How do you think things are at this point of time, considering the fact, the stand that the Republicans have maintained and the stand that the Democrats, like Obama's administration, is maintaining?
I think Obama is faced with a very big dilemma. He has to cut the fiscal, the debt. Like, I think it's around 4 trillion he has to really reduce. So austerity is really something, and he's not going to get popular support when he cuts the pensions or job or government, when he tries to reduce the size of the government, which is what I think part of the protest which is going towards Wall Street is, from these common people who are going to lose their jobs in the future. So Obama is faced with a huge dilemma. I don't know how he's going to solve it.
Was he able to convey and convince people with his remarks on this particular protest?
No,
do you think
I
so?
don't. I don't think so. I don't think so.
But I read a big significance in the fact that Ben Bernanke, who is a chairman of the Federal Reserve, is making sympathetic noises that should warm Obama's heart. He's talking about the protesters being justified in some ways, which is very significant, because I have always been an Indian cynic, believed that in the US the Federal Reserve probably enjoys more economic powers than Washington, because in the US until Buffett came along recently and said that it's fine to tax the rich. Remember we had George W. Bush, who wrote to not George W. Bush's father, the senior, who came up with this famous No New Taxes campaign. So for about 15 years, tax was a dirty word in the US lexicon, and now without tax, they're not going to go anywhere. It's a war for India and China to win.
The Republicans, are also blundering in a big way. If you look at the extreme right, which is the heart of the Republican Party, they have gone back to the American dream and how all these protesters are a nuisance, and actually change cannot come about through this way, but by individual action. You need to, really, the Horatio Alger myth and all these things that they've built up over time is a land of opportunity. You just have to work hard and individually, and you will be fine, right? You will be rich and you will be glorious. And now all the social action, this coming together, is really, really disconcerting to them. So at the end of the day, if you have to make a call, even though there are right-wing factions in the Democratic Party, if at all you have to make a call as to who will benefit from this movement, it will have to be Obama. He's the only person in the spectrum right now who can capitalize on it, harking back to his first election campaign and also to his community organizing days and to that spirit, which had brought him to power in the first place. The right, I think, all the Republican contenders are going to be like, pussyfooted about this. They have no clue how to respond to this movement. They had many of them had funded the Tea Party movement and so on, which is in many ways the converse of this. But the Tea Party is very, very minuscule in the kind of interests and the population it represents. Mostly extremist thinkers. But here you have like the silent majority, no longer silent.
To draw a cricketing analogy, Obama is like Sachin Tendulkar batting on a difficult wicket.
Okay.
The cricketing metaphors for a baseball nation are just fine. I think India has to show its...
So, all right. So, always an expert comment from you, Mr. Madhavan. It's time here to take a very short break in Public Forum. After the break, we'll continue the discussion. Please stay with us.